People no longer bound by their non-disclosure agreements. What can you now disclose? I disclosed to a minority partner that the majority partner owed him $100k. He could have easily received a check for that amount, but he sued for $700k. Spent $300k on a lawyer and got nothing. The book you're reading might only be a bestseller because the author had enough money to buy thousands and thousands of copies, have them shipped to a warehouse for storage, and eventually destroyed. The secret ingredient in Jimmy John's tuna salad is Kikkoman's soy sauce. I worked at a small bakery in New York City when I was younger. Every morning the bakery would take their day-old cupcakes and deliver them to a tour company that did Sex and the City tours. The tour company would pass our cupcakes off as cupcakes from Magnolia, and significantly much more popular bakery. When I was fired from Auntie Anne's in 2010, I signed a 10-year non-compete (NDA) contract, promising not to detail the baking secrets or work for another pretzel establishment. Well, that ended this year, so now I can run out and start a pretzel store, because the secret I was keeping was making pretzels literally requires two products, one of them being water and the other a large bag of pretzel meal, dust, powder. Quite literally anyone with $2,500 can start a pretzel stand and make perfectly fine pretzels. It's not difficult whatsoever. Edit. I signed the letter when I was hired, but I got a copy with my termination letter. You know, NDAs are only good if you have the money to sue. Worked with a company that didn't pay me, so I told them their NDA didn't apply. They threatened to sue. My response: you can't even afford to pay me. You sure as hell can't afford to sue. I used to work for a large gas station chain. I worked at its warehouse, where it creates a lot of the donuts. The room was really hot, so we were always sweating. There's some machines where the donuts get glazed in chocolate. They're these small machines, they look almost like a BBQ grill. They always wanted us to be super fast glazing the donuts. Working in a hot room and working at super fast speeds, it was natural for a lot of people's sweat to just drip in the chocolate underneath us. Never eat the chocolate donuts from a gas station. I was wrongfully terminated by a past employer. They lowballed the settlement offer and withheld payment on my accrued vacation. This part was actually illegal. It took about a year to get to the point where their attorneys realized that we were not lying about them holding back the accrued vacation, and this caused them to make a more than generous offer to make my claim against them go away. I had to sign an NDA to be cast in a pretty big movie this year with a bunch of Marvel people. I know literally nothing of any value to everyone. All I did was dress up and stand out in the snow, staying perfectly still and freezing my ass off next to Tom Holland for a week. I once had to sign an NDA to get a price on a printer for my sign shop. This was a printer that was only sold by one distributor, by the way, so there wasn't even any direct competition on this particular model. I think their gimmick was that if they make a really big deal out of giving you this super secret pricing, that you'd be lulled into thinking it was really something special. Edit. Interesting comment by you. Beard stash man below, who probably has the right idea as to what was going on with this practice. Never had an NDA on this, but if I give too much info, I'll get tagged and likely get in serious trouble. BCBS had a severe security breach back in 2007. If you were with them in a certain area of the country and ever called them, the number for help on your account, all of your personal info was caught by a third party. Every caller, every piece of data. They never disclosed this breach. Edit. Clarification. I'm still bound, but insider trading is real and executive often step down or retire early for getting caught. I worked at a gym, and in the showers there was yellow shampoo and blue body wash and pump dispensers. I found out that the only difference between the two soaps was the color. Edit. Memory joggers. It was 25 years ago. Hand soap was blue. Body wash was green. Shampoo was yellow. All the same. Edit 2. As funny as the replies are, it wasn't an NDA about soap. It was just a generic employment NDA to protect the privacy of members and business affairs of the gym. Portal 3 was in development at some point. Got a tour of Valve in 2013, and got to see a very early stage of the game. Pretty sure it's not coming out anymore. The $100 million electronic component broker that I worked for shafted me out of $900K in commissions when I was in my early 20s. They assumed I would not have enough money to fight them in court and they took their shot. I got a lawyer on contingency, sued them, and took home a $500K settlement in 2000. The 20 years NDA recently expired, and they can continue to kiss my ass until their graves. I used to work in fine dining in Oklahoma City. Cocaine everywhere. I personally walked in on several NBA players over the years. Face down in that white girl. Come to mention it, I've seen several of them ducking other guests on the same bathroom counter that their teammates just did a line off of. Personally got to watch Harold Ham sign his divorce check. $975 million is a whole lot of zeros in a small space. Wild times indeed. Edit. For those that may want more stories, I did get to see LeBron covered in toilet paper. Hilarity ensued. Needless to say, she was escorted out. My mom had to sign her NDA about Ricky Martin being gay. I had to sign an NDA to work at this tech company, and I'm still waiting to accidentally overhear something cool, so I can feel special for knowing something important, but being legally barred from disclosing it. Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA will have microtransactions. The NDA was signed in 2016. I was getting more and more worried as the release date kept getting closer, and then it happened. The backlash was so strong that EA went down in the history books as most downvoted comment in Reddit's history. I think I'm finally ready to let the world know my secret if you've ever used VeriSite. The loading spinners you see when the report loads aren't waiting for anything. People kept complaining that reports were coming back too fast. So it must not be working right. It doesn't take long to complete a few hundred Google searches simultaneously. So the loading spinner just makes you wait a few seconds longer, so it feels like more is happening. So glad to finally get that off my chest. Bonus fact. Edit. I also added applying phlebotinum, reticulating splines, and looking for cat memes as random loading messages. But they wouldn't let me do harassing Ted Cruz on Twitter. My NDA is classified military information. Of course it's almost 25 years now, so I can tell you about the Battle of Norfolk. Look, we are gonna shoot the other guys. As a lawyer, I viewed a lot of these and taught settlements. The most common use of the NDA is to keep the award amount quiet so everyone won't sue the company hoping to get that sweet settlement money. Edit. Several people haven't me about their NDAs, and if they can talk about this or that, I'm not your lawyer. I don't give legal advice to non-clients. You shouldn't take legal advice from strangers on Reddit. But it's called a settlement because you settled the matter. Let it go. You got the hush money. Now do the hush. In the IT world, it is often that the piece of internal software or system that gives your company an edge is not quite as huge a deal as it seems. Often it is not much more than a couple of technologies mashed together to automate things in a way nobody else is doing yet. And those things are fiercely guarded. I had cases where people saw stuff in action and tried to replicate it, but could not because they were missing just one small piece. The cupcake shop I used to work for claimed everything was homemade, but used Pillsbury cake mix as a base. The head smoke shop I used to work at sold whippets, nitrous cartridges, behind the counter under the guise of being cake ingredients. All someone had to do was walk in and say they were looking to bake a cake. I'm not sure if they still do it, but I wouldn't be surprised. I worked as a nanny for a senator. He and his wife slept in separate beds, and he had a girlfriend. If you create your own business cards at the design and print station at a certain office, retail center that rhymes with dead sex orifice, you're paying for 5 times what you should, because the whole system is done through Vistaprint.com. You could literally design and order the same amount and quality of business cards from your home for $10 as opposed to $39.99 or more you'd pay in the store. Sometimes Vistaprint will run promotions where you get 250 quality cards for free, but if you order them at Dead Sex Orifice, you're gonna pay out the wazoo for the exact same thing. Their machine doesn't do what they want it to because they designed it and they are not engineers. Also, all investments into their company is investment into a long-term project that they are making out will take way less time than it will. Edit. I'm afraid I never worked for Theranos or Tesla. I actually can't name the company, but it hires 2 people currently. I'd rather not risk it. But let's just say hypothetically that a certain tech company who is inside keeps its campuses pretty super. I'm talking old, rundown buildings that need dozens of buckets everywhere to catch water every time it rains. They bully companies in the local economy to put up with their horse shot cause they know they're too big to hear a no. Hypothetically. Edit. I feel like I'm about to get a very angry and legal jargon filled phone call. Also, I'm leaving horse shot cause I think it's funny. How seriously amazing Anthem felt, played, looked, and performed in the pre-alpha closed test. My god, how the greats have fallen. I sued my boss for XL harassment. I'm guessing I'm still not supposed to tell, but duck them. Won some money. Got a better job. The higher-ups in a company I worked for several years ago had a non-verbal agreement among managers to not hire black people. It was in an area with very low African American population. But the fact that the VP slipped that to me on a night out with coworkers was surprising. I walked dogs. I'll repeat this. I was a dog walker. And I have signed 3 NDAs. It's amazing what people want to protect. Back when EpiPen selling for $400 was big in the news, I was part of an engineering student team working on a better and cheaper device. It would have 2 doses in 1 pen. Since a lot of people are advised to carry 2 pens, you would administer 1 shot, and then if needed, twist the pen, and then administer the second. The epinephrine cartridge was replaceable too, so if you didn't use the pen for a year or 2 and it expired, you just got the cheap epinephrine cartridge. Epinephrine is cheap. And replaced it. I ended up leaving the team because no one was contributing to the project except me. Found out my company had been manually adjusting my time punches to avoid paying me overtime. In order to get the pay, I had to sign an NDA saying I wouldn't tell anyone about it and just take it on their word that they'd stop doing it to everyone else. Their groundbreaking idea was the same one everyone else had 10 years before. Edit, because so many people seem to think so. No. This had nothing to do with Apple. This was some no-name startup that never went anywhere. Obviously. And wanted to contract our no-name startup that never went anywhere for its services. It was also vague that I don't really remember the details. I mean, I can tell you where we met. I can tell you how hot it was that day. I can tell you what I was wearing. But their big idea, nothing. The company I worked for had shockingly bad maintenance. Everything was broken. We had floods daily because the hose leaked. Windows XP Tablet Edition isn't going to be that great. Also, the original announcer voice in Fusion Frenzy was even more annoying than the final version. Insurance companies will take any opening they can to avoid paying a possible claim, including going outside of the law if they feel it is financially advantageous for them to do so. They spend tens of millions of dollars a year training people how to do this. If you have a claim, always escalate. Be a pain in the ass. Threaten litigation if necessary. I no longer work here. However, my female boss, also owner of the company, had an affair that ended up in a divorce. The guy she had an affair, who lived a state away, 10-hour drive, with basically told her to GTFO, and that he wasn't leaving his family for her. It didn't stop her purchasing a property in the same suburb as the guy she cheated on her husband with in the name of the business, supposedly, to do positive things for the business, yet make the decision to move into said property not even a month after settlement.